AWA, Alexander Watson Associates, we believe you should have access to every resource your business needs to succeed. We ask the right questions, we listen, and provide answers that you can act upon with confidence. Our global business is facilitating the growth of yours. The difference between simply surviving and strategic growth is the intelligence that creates your strategy. AWA is your trusted business-to-business market research, publishing, conferences and events, and advisory services company with a unique industry focus on the specialty paper, film, packaging, coating, and converting sector.
Since 1971, we have provided industry-leading, reliable, and cost-effective market information. Our portfolio of published studies is thorough and relevant for your business to grow effectively, and we provide a wide range of tailor-made services for clients. As a guarantee of quality and accountability, our experts are engaged in every phase of a project.
Our outcome-driven market due diligence and M&A services provide support for high-value, no-surprise transactions. Clients are provided with in-depth knowledge and market understanding to execute successful deals.
Through AWA conferences and events, we provide a platform of industry-specific physical and virtual events, facilitating information sharing, networking, and providing insights to help your business grow.
We are here to help you navigate the complexities of the market today. We are your platform for your informational needs.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome, everyone, to this In-Mold Label Seminar hosted by AWA Alexander Watson Associates. My name is Catalina Steinbacher Galindo. I'm a senior market consultant at AWA as part of our market research team. I want to welcome everyone from all the parts of the world. We have about 200 delegates registered and watching today, so that's quite a high number. I want to say that we're excited to be jumping back on our IML, our in-mold seminars. We will continue to host a series of seminars around in-mold technologies, not only for labels, but also for in-mold decoration and in-mold electronics. So we encourage you to reach out to us if you're interested in participating for that. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Actiga, Viapani, and Tagleaf. Thank you very much for your support. And of course, to our speakers and panelists who will be supporting and participating in our program today. To start, I will be giving a short overview of the in-mold label market. It'll just be about 20 minutes or so, and then we will be followed. It'll be followed by some presentations from our sponsors. We'll also have two panel discussions, one on sustainability, which is, of course, a very important topic nowadays, especially with new regulations coming into play in Europe and other parts of the world, and one on technological advancements in the in-mold label space. That'll be quite interesting to hear what our panelists have to say. And I encourage everyone in the audience to also just ask questions or, let us know if there's something that you'd like to discuss. We'll have a 10-minute break halfway as well for you to stretch your legs, get a coffee, get some water. So without further ado, we'll start the presentation. Hope it's on the screen. Great. Before jumping into the in-mold label market, it is important to look at it in perspective from other in-mold, other labeling technologies. So we look at the total label market, which totaled about 70 billion square meters in 2023. We see that pressure sensitive takes the largest share at 38%, followed by glue applied, which includes both cut and stack labels as well as wraparound labels for water bottles, for example, and canned foods at 35%. And then we have sleeve representing 20%. And we look at in-mold, it really is a very, very small part of the market compared to other labeling technologies, representing just 2% of the global market, which is about 1.5 billion square meters. There is some variation across the regions, which we'll see later on in the slides. One thing to take into consideration here is that pressure sensitive is used very much in VIP label applications, which take up nearly or more than half of the market. So if we actually take out that chunk of, let's say, VIP label, we see that the market dynamics change a little. In-mold is still quite small compared to other technologies, but it is now at 3% compared to 2% when looking at the total label market. So again, this is just the primary label applications where we primarily see or only see in-mold label. And here we see that, for example, sleeve, again, has also gained a larger market share, and glue applied goes from 35% to 43% of the market. So it's important to take that into consideration as well. If we look at the market growth for these technologies, we see the total forecasted growth from end of 2023 to 2026. We see a global forecasted growth rate of about 3.3%. Obviously, looking at last year, especially the pressure-sensitive label market, but also other markets, did not fare very well, to put it lightly. In some cases, there were in some markets significant drops in production and demand of label volumes. But going forward, we are projecting, again, growth. It might be on the more conservative side, but considering there are still quite a lot of economic and let's say, outside macro factors to take into account, which are having an impact, a significant impact on consumer spending, consumer behavior, the types of products they're buying, where they're putting their money. So this is something that needs to be taken into account. While we do expect to see significant recovery in some labeling technologies this year, going forward, it's still globally for all labeling technologies about 3.3%. In terms of which technology is forecasted to grow the fastest, it's sleeve. This has been the case for the past years, although the growth rate has slowed down, let's say, with growing at a much faster pace in the past, primarily driven by the Asian market. But as it's matured as a technology, we see the growth rate coming down and being more in line with other more mature labeling technologies like PSL and in-mold as well in this case. So in-mold we see growing more or less on par with the overall global market, a bit higher than glue applied and just under pressure sensitive, not that much of a difference, so more or less at the same rate. We know that growth for in-mold is driven primarily it's being driven in large part by the Asian markets. European and North American markets are a bit more mature when it comes to in-mold labeling technology. But in these regions, we do see the growth coming from sustainability concerns. In-mold provides, certain sustainability benefits like having a monomaterial packaging or just making recyclability easier. Going forward with new regulations, especially in Europe, we expect this to really be a driver for in-mold labeling, despite it being quite a smaller labeling technology compared to the others. If we look at the in-mold label by market by region, we see that it's clearly dominated by the European market at more than half, at 56%. It's followed by North America and Asia at 13%. South American AME, of course, much smaller, and these are primarily import markets with not a lot of their own production of either materials or printed labels. So they both represent about 4% of the market. We do see quite high growth rates coming from South America, and there is a lot of interest from local converters to introduce in-mold labeling into their portfolio. However, it comes with a lot of challenges and a high learning curve, which still needs to be overcome. And so these markets are still primarily import markets, coming either from North America or from Europe. As I mentioned, we do see regionally variations in terms of the shares that each labeling technology holds in each region. So we look at in-mold specifically, it's a quite small part of total Asian market. I hope you can see it. It's a very small red line. It's about 1%, I think. Slightly larger in North America, but then of course, compared to the others, a larger chunk of the European market, which makes sense considering that so much of it is coming from Europe. We've seen the more say developing regions, glue applied still has more significant share compared to North America, Europe, and Asia. Sleeve in Asia is of course quite big, considering that that's where the technology first originated and it was first adopted. So you see the variations across the regions. We look at market growth rate for IML specifically going forward. Like I mentioned, the highest growth will be coming from the South American region and Asia. So Asia, particularly from food segments, some beverage segments as well. We're seeing more, or we're hearing about more interest for these technologies. North America, Europe, again, more slower growth rates just because of more mature markets, and in Europe especially a bit hampered by some economic concerns and just overall consumer sentiment, while 2024 has definitely been a recovery year compared to 2023 for label markets. We look at the microdynamics, there's still a lot of external factors which are having an impact, and especially on consumer behavior, which ultimately drives the demand for labels. You can also look at the in-mold label market by technology. There are, of course, different ways. So we have blow molding, injection molding, and thermoforming. So blow molding, as we know, is more for thicker walled blow molded bottles, primarily made from HDPE or polypropylene. This is seen more in the industrial segment, like for household chemicals or industrial chemicals, things like that. Whereas injection molding, which represents 71% of the market, is really the majority, is used more for thinner walled materials, going more into like the food segment, like the butter tubs, ice creams, things like that. You do see regional differences as well. So while Europe is very much geared towards injection molding, we see a larger share of blow molding in the North American markets. And you also see that variation in, let's say, the NU segments where IML is used and where we're seeing growth. So the North American market, you're seeing IML more in the household chemicals, industrial chemicals, things like that. Whereas in Europe, you are seeing it a bit more in primarily the food segment. The food segment really the largest chunk of the IML market in Europe. We look at growth, so we're seeing the highest growth coming from blow molding, and then injection molding, although again, the difference is not that significant, both around between 3 and 4%. So it's still quite a good growth rate forecasted. This is global. Again, being driven for injection molding, the drive is coming from sustainability in like the food segments or FMCG segments, where IML provides the sustainability benefits. Whereas for blow molding, it would be coming more from the the decoration capabilities, of course, there's been advancements into what can be done with an IML. So is the durability that it provides compared to a pressure sensitive label or even a glue applied label in some cases. If we look at the global in-mold label market by end use, so we have, like I mentioned, the largest chunk is food. And this is on a global scale, but as well being a large contributor to this is just the European market contributing to this large chunk of food labeling in IML. Then we have beverage at a much larger share. Something that's been somewhat of a trend in the Asian market is the use of in-mold labels in bubble tea stores. So that's a somewhat of a driving force for, let's say, the beverage part of the market. Health and personal care, about 4%, and then household chemicals as well. So these are like your cleaning supplies, disinfectants, things like that. And as I mentioned, this is, you see it in across the regions, but primarily in the North American market. And then we do have industrial chemicals as well at about 12% of the global market. We're looking at growth rates by end use. So beverage, about 4.5% would be the fastest growing segment. We see this partially, of course, you're working from a very small base, so you're going to have slightly higher growth rates. But see this, for example, in on-the-go beverages, for example, like on-the-go coffees that you can buy at your convenience store or grocery stores. Some of them are switching to IML label where previously it was maybe a sleeve or even a carton sleeve or a shrink sleeve or direct printed. IML provides a bit more durability than in direct printing in some cases, especially if the product is being refrigerated. Then we also see growth coming from household chemicals and industrial chemicals. Like I said, IML does provide that chemical resistance. It's protect the design, and the print is protected as it's part of the packaging. Health and personal care, also a decent growth rate, but we do see, let's say, less interest in that part compared to the food and beverage segments. And then if we look at substrates, so obviously film substrates represent the significant majority of the IML market. Blow molding applications use a wider variety of products, including polymer and synthetic papers, as well as OBP and CPP. When we look at injection molding, they're focused on more the CPP and OBP materials. A growing substrate is, of course, synthetic papers, which are widely used in blow molding technologies. There is some movement from synthetic papers also to injection molding applications as well. There is a small share of paper, about 2%. We do see this share decreasing on a year-on-year basis. I believe there wouldn't be, let's say in this case, but just as a side note, there is some innovation that's come from MCC Restrata for paper IML and fiber molded packaging. So potentially more growth in that case coming from that space, especially as there is more interest from consumers to see paper packaging is more sustainable compared to plastic. Although given the regulations and what the industry knows now, it's more of a design to recycle mindset. So really looking at the whole life cycle analysis as opposed to just going for a fiber-based material over a film-based material. I think I'm a bit ahead of schedule, but I would like to mention that we have two reports. Well, one report we publish on a somewhat biannual basis. We have the In-Mold Label Market Report, which will be published within this month, not this month, sorry, before the end of Q2. We also have our labeling and product decoration study, which includes IML labels as well as other labeling technologies. And something that we've started doing for the past 3 years now is our quarterly data transcripts, which we track all labeling technology, so pressure sensitive label, glue applied, sleeve, and IML on a quarterly basis. So this is just an example of it. Usually includes an analyst outlook and just a quarterly analysis of the market. Coming up, we also include a cost index for specific materials. There is a regional analysis. There's a trending topic during each in each edition that we add, depending on what is going on in the industry. And I would like to mention as well that for all attendees of the In-Mold Label Seminar, we are giving a 30% discount for the IML study. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out to either me or the rest of the AWA team. We'll also be displaying a discount code as well as a purchase link during the 10-minute break, which we have later on. So you can also use that. And yeah, I think that was it. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I haven't been checking the questions bar, but I don't think there are any. So next up, I'd like to present Andre Soterio, who is head of sales and labels EMEA at Actiga. He's a seasoned coding specialist with deep passion for the graphic arts industry. His expertise lies in solving technical challenges and providing expert advice to customers, ensuring their needs are met technically safe and high quality coatings. With over 20 years of experience in the printing industry, Andre has had various key positions, including technical manager and product manager. He began his career by graduating as a printing technician from Sinai in Brazil. Later pursued studies in marketing in Sao Paulo. So thank you, Andre, and welcome.
Thank you for the introduction, Catalina, and thank you for the nice presentation about the market situation. Quite interesting to see how is it going. So thanks so much. Just a quick update. About a year ago, I changed my position. So since 1 year ago, more or less, I'm a global manager IML at Actiga. So I'm more involved in the IML itself and not so much on the whole label market that we attend.
Okay, good to know. We'll make sure to update our system. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. Don't worry. Shall I share my screen then? Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the invitation, Catalina, and thank you for all the background work for Neva and Tanvir for setting up this seminar. When we were discussing about what topics, I thought about focusing on the embellishment of in-mold labels with coatings. That's a quite for me, it's still in-mold is a quite a conventional, traditional label producing method. So we've seen some innovations, but very, very careful and not so much. We don't see so many new changes in the market so fast. But So that's why I decided to present a little bit some ideas that you can use on that one, and basically using coatings or overprint varnishes. So before we start, I'd like to give a quick glance on the Actega and what we are doing. So Actega is a part of Altana Group. It's one of the world's most innovative and fast-growing chemical companies. It's headquartered in Wesel in Germany, and it has 47 production sites and more than 65 service and research laboratory sites worldwide. It consists of 4 divisions: Actega, BYK, for those of you who buy some equipment to control the viscosity or the gloss meters. Those are provided by BYK, for example, or Eckhart, very famous for the metallic pigments and inks. And Elantas doing solutions for the electrical market. Altana offers innovative specialty solutions for coating manufacturers, coatings and plastic converters, printing and packaging industry, cosmetics, and electrical industry. As I said, we are divided in 4 divisions. I'll show later more about Actega, but at BYK, they're doing mainly paint additives, plastic additives, industrial applications, measuring testing equipments. At Eckhart is mainly at the paint applications and graphic industry, cosmetic, plastic, and other functional applications. And at the Elantas is all about electronics and cables and wires and composite materials. So if we see, have a look at the Actega itself. Actega is develops, produce, and distributes specialty chemicals, printing inks, adhesives, sealants, all of them with a focus on the packaging, graphic arts, and medical industries. We provide materials with a high quality appearance and innovative functionalities. We are divided in 3 business lines: flexible packaging and labels, metal packaging solutions, and paper and board for folded boxes. We offer technically sophisticated product solutions for all these 3 business lines. We employ over 1,300 people worldwide, and we have production sites in Europe, North and South America, and Asia. So if we see the sales breakdown, it's quite similar between the 3 divisions, and the biggest area of sales breakdowns is still in Europe with almost 50% of the sales. Just a glimpse of the sites where we have, so several sites in the United States, but we have 2 sites in North Carolina, New Jersey, only producing water-based coatings, and Flexo, UV inks, water-based inks, and the coatings. In Brazil, we have as well one in São Paulo, in Foshan in China, and 3 main sites producing water-based coatings, solvent base, and UV in Europe, dedicated for the graphic arts and the packaging industry. So not go into all these details here, but you can see all the business lines where we are working. So for us, everybody's talking about sustainability. We have a motto that says that for us, the sustainability is blue. We want to make the world a little bit bluer, and we have several different actions taking place on that one. But for me, one of the most important of them is the material health certifications. So where we were awarded with a gold certificate from the Cradle to Cradle Certified Product Standard to ensure that chemicals of concern are avoided in the production of our products, and most of all our water-based coatings for IML have this material health certificate from Cradle to Cradle. Yeah, some other ones, but also very responsible care, which is really important, and the management audits to be sure that there is no harmful during the production of our products. Then if we enter on the coatings, the IML coatings production, there are some main functions that we are expecting for an IML coating when we are using them at the printing or at the molding or at the final use. So, and if we see then, first of all is the protection of the printed image, either if it's digital, offset printing, flexo, we have to protect the printed image. Second one, and very important, as Catalina said, a very big market, very big portion of the market is for food. For food, the first one of the main important aspects when you are producing labels for foods, for food, is to have the regulatory aspect under control to be sure that there is no harmful for the foods which are packed. Then when we are printing or die cutting the labels, you will need to be sure that you have no static during printing or die cutting. So the coating can provide. This one is also, of course, provided by the film itself, but the coating has a very big influence on the anti-static and at the printing and die cutting of the in-mold labels. No blocking, so we don't want the labels to be stuck together. Easy handling at automation, that the labels separate very easily. There is no issues of picking up two labels or no labels. So this one, provided by one of the functions of the coating as well. The static charging to place the labels in the mold, it's one of the most important functions. Of course, depends on the type of automation or how you are holding the labels inside the mold, but this is one of the main features of the IML coating. Heat and water resistance, of course, is a very important one. Rubber and scratch resistance, which is more or less related to the protection of the printed image. And finally, but not least, the embellishment effects that you can do that. As I said, still the IML labels are quite conservative. We don't see so many changes on that one, but there are a lot of functions, a lot of influence to create this kind of embellishment. And if we see, it's everything like a jigsaw puzzle. Everything must fit together to create this effect. So the films used need to be taken care of that. The print method will have an influence on that. The automation used to place the label inside the mold. The product design or the final shape of the injected cup. Coating used, and as well the inks used. All of these will create some, have an influence on the final product. And if we see on this influence, here are some of the topics that we can see on that one. So first of all, the films used. So first of all, when we are talking about embellishment here on this presentation, we are mainly focused on IML injection cups. As Catalina said, that the biggest market here for in-mold labels is in Europe. We are using Europe as one of the main points, but we have as well experience all over the world with that one. But our focus here is mainly talk about the solutions that we see in Europe available. So when we are talking about the films used, you have many different options. You can have cavitated, solid, transparent, and cast film. And one of the most used to create some nice embellishment will be solid films for when you're using an IML. Second one is the inks. So here we are using mainly conventional UV inks, sometimes metallics. There are a lot of other possibilities to use inks for embellishment. You can use as well fluorescent inks, invisible inks, or even thermochromic inks. We don't see so much this one, these special inks on the market, but all these are possibilities that you can do. Coatings, there are also many different types of usage for the coatings. You have water-based, UV, LED, E-beam, solvent-based. Here we are mainly focusing on the water-based and UV coatings. And finally, but not least, there are many different types of ways for you to print the labels. On this presentation, we are mainly focusing on offset litho, flexo, and digital. You can also use hybrid printing technologies. You can use silk screen, you can use gravure, but we are mainly focused on the presentation on the offset, flexo, and digital. So why do we need embellishment for in-mold labels? So everybody has seen these photos many times. On a shelf life, thousands of different products, difficult to decide what do you want. So the embellishment helps, of course, to attract the consumer attention. And we hope that with the packaging will attract the consumer to take that product and try and see that one. So here are some ideas what you can use on embellishment. So first of all, very simple one, gloss and matte function coatings. So when we, as Catalina presented before, most of the films used today are OPP films. We see in the market still a lot of cavitated films that you cannot use so much embellishment. It's much more on the print quality, on the functionality of the label itself. But there are a lot of small things that you can do to create some different effects with the labels, especially using different coatings and different films. So one of the most simple ones is gloss and matte coatings. When we talk about high gloss coatings for in-mold labels, to have a shine effect, it will work better on solid or non-cavitated films, where you have a very flat surface and where you have the less distortion on the surface of the coating and the high brilliance, final brilliance on that one. The type of inks used will have a very big influence on the gloss level. So if you're using, for example, an offset printing, UV inks or conventional inks, it will have a difference. There is a large difference between UV and water-based coatings. Again, when you're using when you're using UV inks, you have to take care about some. When you're using UV coatings, you have to take care about some of the regulatory issues. Water-based are quite simple to use. The application of the coating and the mouth are also very important, and static charging might be an issue, especially if you're using UV coatings. If we see on the difference between the UV and the water-based coating for the as a high gloss coatings, there's a quite big difference. So if UV gloss with UV coatings, you have the best gloss that you can achieve. It's a very nice gloss, very high, very shiny effect. It has an excellent rub resistance. So UV coatings gives a very good rub resistance. Unfortunately, you cannot use that with offset conventional inks or oxidative inks, because with UV coatings, you close the surface and they do not let the coating, the ink underneath oxidize. Or you have to apply a primer to close the surface first, let it dry, and then apply the UV coating on the second step. Again, regulatory and low migration. Everybody talks a lot about these are UV coatings, low migration. There are different levels of product security. Have to be sure that when you are using UV coatings, that you are not having any issues with the migration of on the final product. And what we see as well lately is that there are so many changes in UV regulations. So some photoinitiators are not more available, are not allowed to use anymore in Europe. Now we have the issue with TMPTA, also that cannot be used on some of the coatings and inks. So it's a lot of changes, and you have to be sure that you are comply with all the regulatory issues when using UV coatings. Water or humidity resistance might be an issue. Although UV has a very high rub resistance, as long as it's in contact with water, this resistance is gone. So you have to be sure that the product doesn't have so much influence or so much contact with high humidity or water. And static charging is not so optimal, so we have to be sure that it's working as well in the final product, in the final application, when placing the labels in the mold. On the water-based coatings, you can achieve a good gloss. It's not so high as the UV coating, but you have a very good water resistance. It's a very good regulatory status. You can use that one with conventional inks or UV inks. When printing offset, just have to be sure that to run some trials, because when you use conventional inks, you might have a little bit lower gloss where the ink is applied. It has excellent static charging. It's quite easy to use, good rub resistance, and is a cost advantage compared to UV systems, especially on the length maintenance. Even on when you're using low migration coatings, the cost will be quite high. So it's a quite good cost advantage compared to a UV system. Second option is matte coatings. Here you can use also a water-based or UV system. Both works pretty good and have a very nice effect. In some cases, the matte effect will even work with cavitated films. The coating amount or the anilux used is one of the very important issues here when you are using matte coatings. You need to be sure that the matte pigments are applied correctly. If you use a small anilux and the matte pigment is too big, you will not be transferring the matte pigments. You're just transferring the carrier, and you will not achieve the matte effect that you want. Scratch and rub resistance might be an issue with matte coatings. Sometimes the matte pigments are really on the surface, and then it's more scratch. You have some changes on that surface. In combination with a spot UV coating, it will create a very nice matte gloss effect. We'll see on the next slide. And static charging might be an issue too, depending on how you are doing the static in the mold. Matte gloss effect for in-mold labels. This one, it's a little bit difficult to produce in offset printing, in sheet offset printing. Normally we need 2 coating units, or you need to do 2 passes. Depending on the printing method, register of spot UV can be an issue as well. And you need a matte coating that it's stampable, that's going to have a good adhesion to the UV coating or the high gloss coating. The application of the UV coating is very important to achieve the best contrast and the highest gloss. and regulatory need to be checked too. Drip off is quite nice, easy way to make a matte gloss effect. So it can be applied in offset press in one single pass. You use the last printing unit for UV ink duct matte coating, and then you apply on the coating unit a full UV high gloss coating. The matte gloss is applied on desired areas with a printing plate, and when you try to apply the UV coating on top, the UV high gloss coating, this matte coating will reject the UV coating, and it will create some small drops. And just 1 second. Seems there is some issues with that one. Can you see my slide? Can you see the slides now? Can you see now the slides now? Is that okay? Okay, sorry for that one. So anyway, for the drip off effect, matte coat is applied on desired areas with a printing plate. It will reject the gloss coating, and it will create some small drops on the surface. So that's why it's called this drip off. It can be used with a special file to create some motion coat effect, some movement effect. And very important when doing drip off is that any contamination in the ink rollers or the coating unit will fail the effect. So you have to deeply clean all the system before using a drip off coating. So cast and cure effect, it's easy to apply in roll-to-roll applications. The effect will work better on a solid or non-cavitated film. Here, an UV coating is applied, and during the curing, it gets in touch with a holographic film, like you can see here, here on the slide, and that will transfer the image to the surface of the coating, and you have a very nice holographic effect. There are several effects available from different manufacturers, and this holographic film can be reused many times. It's quite difficult to use in the sheet offset application, but quite easy on a roll-to-roll application then. Other types of embellishments that might not work well for in-mold labels, we have done some trials in the past, and we could not get good results. Some of the effects that we tried in the past is like a sand effect, which can be used really well on a pressure-sensitive label or self-adhesive label. A relief effect with silkscreen, some soft touch coatings, some structure effects. And the main reason that's not working is because there will be a lot of issues related to the separation of the labels. or when you are trying to place the labels inside the mold with static. And some of this reliable structure, after you inject and you press the label against the wall and the plastic, it will become quite flat and you're going to lose the desired effect. Another possibility as well is some metallic effects. Here you can do cold foil or hot foil. Cold foil, it's easy on the roll-to-roll press. Not so many printers are using offset, as it's a quite complicated system. Hot foil, need to be careful. That might deform the film or the label with the heat. You can use as well metallic inks. You can use either in conventional or UV. The better effects are with UV metallic inks. You might need some tricks to have a higher brilliance. And on the next page, you're going to see some of the difference between the pigments. You can use as well a coating. It's basically metallic pigments mixed into a water or UV coating. It's not so popular in IML, as you need to do 2 passes in the offset press or in the flexo press, and it's not so really used in IML. And as well, you can use a metallic film. These will be films made by the supplier or converter. You need normally an extra layer of film to make the static charging, and it's not so. We see once in a while at some customers use this kind of films. If we see the difference of the pigments, we have cornflake, silver dollar, platinum dollar, and vacuum metallized pigments. The more you go to the right, you have a better chrome mirror effect. You have as well sensitive and complex reduction process, and the more you go to the left, you have a better price and storage stability. Some considerations when using metallic effects, metallic inks. Static charging might be an issue. This effect needs to be extensively tested, especially large industrial runs, to be sure that the reproductivity and functionality works. UV metallics have a nice brilliant effect, and there are some tricks to achieve high brilliance. So some final considerations on embellishments. Embellishment effects provide a great shelf appeal. It needs to be extensively tested in printing and molding to be sure that it's you can always have the same results. And all partners need to be involved, from film supplier, printer, coating supplier, molder, to be sure that all the parties are involved and they can achieve the best effect. Here are my contact details. If you have any questions, feel free. And you have thank you for your attention. And sorry again for the issues with the slides before.
Interesting presentation, and no worry about the technical stuff. It happens. I think we're used to it by now. Can't do anything about it. Speed things up, I'll just quickly introduce our next speaker, who is Stefano Di Gregorio, Technical and Business Development Manager at Fiapiani Printing, and he'll be giving his presentation Beyond Ordinary IML. Welcome, Stefano.
Thank you for the nice introduction and for the invitation also. I will quickly try to share my screen. Okay, do you see my slides? Sorry. Oh. Fine. So, the Fiapiani Printing, first of all, a couple of words regarding the company. We are part of the CTI group. CTI is an Austrian industrial privately owned group which invested since 2005 in packaging printing companies. We at Viapiani Italy are the competence center for IML, and there are other companies within the group printing different types of labels and packaging. There is Uliket in Austria, printing self-adhesive labels. There is Omnipack in Spain, printing paper and cardboard products, mainly for the tobacco industry. There is Viapiani de Colombia, printing in Flexo, printing some IML also, mainly for blow molding. And there is cigar rings in the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua, printing the wraps of the cigars. The company is founded in 1929, so we have 95 years of history behind us. We are conveniently located in very close to Milan, 4 kilometers from Milan, very close to airports and highways and so. We are, as I said, since 2009, members of the CTI group. We print only IML labels since 2013, so we specialized very early in our history in the production of labels, very early in the production of IML labels, and then also we decided in 2013 to print exclusively IML. We have ISO 9001 certification, BRC, FDA also certification for the American market, and we are now in the process of getting the 14001 environmental certification. We print on 5 printing machines, which are actually 4 offset machines and 1 flexo machine. I generally do not count the flexo machine because this is serving one big project only, but let's say that 99% of our labels are printed sheet-fed offset. We have machines having 6, 7, or 8 colors. We have the full house finishing department, and we print more than 1.5 billion labels per year. Now let's get to the point. Today we will be presenting a bit everything which goes beyond the normal, the traditional IML label. So our IML specials. We have, first of all, low distortion labels. These are labels which are printed on a substrate which is quite soft. And because of this spec, the label can be used to IML label surfaces which are not even. Like you see here in the picture, this is a lid of a 1 liter ice cream where you see the rim is not on the same level as the central part of the lid. This would cause normally an IML label which goes up to the rim to have some folds on the rim. So the unevenness of the lid would exhaust in folds. In this case, the material is soft and plastic enough in order to absorb these unevenness. And therefore allow for full surface decoration of such a lid. Another point is the low distortion effect. So what normally happens with an in-mold label on a lid is that we are placing a label on top of a lid. This means on one side only of the lid. And this causes during the cooling phase of the product, so during the shrinkage of the plastic part, some tension in the lid itself. This might exhaust into a warpage of the plastic part, so the lid actually bends because of the presence of the label. Now, with these low distortion labels, we use softer material and lighter material, which allows for decreasing the part's weight, so decreasing the plastic material we are putting into the part, by having less influence on the warpage. Like you see here on the last sentence of the slide, this you see here is a lid for a 1 liter ice cream container, which weighs 13 grams instead of 16 grams it was weighing before. So before, 16 grams has been the limit, because otherwise we would have warpage of the plastic part. But with this foam, we were able to design a lid which is thinner and lighter. Our labels also have to undergo some thermal or high pressure processing. We are talking generally about pasteurization. Pasteurization is a process where we heat up food in its container for a certain period of time. And this means that the IML label needs to be able to stand this high temperature for a given period of time, and also in humid conditions. So the pasteurization might be in water spray, in steam, and so on. Here we think we have a good solution, because we've been able to win projects where other labels failed. And thanks to some technology in varnishing and in ink technology also, we are able to guarantee this. I mean, to guarantee, this means every pasteurization process has to be tested first, simply because pasteurization does not have a precise definition of a temperature given and of a certain period of time of exposure. The conditions might be quite different, and so every time we start a new project, we need to make some tests. So we are also producing barrier labels. When we talk about barrier, we talk about oxygen barrier. Generally, this is the most asked barrier technology. We can embed the barrier actually in the label. This means that we do not, so our customers do not need to have co-injection equipment or so, but the whole barrier is given by the label. In this case, we need, of course, to cover the container virtually at 100% of its surface with the label. Here we see a square container where we have a 5 faces label covering bottom, covering the sides, and also a lid label. These labels are printed on a substrate which is polypropylene on top, polypropylene on bottom, and in the middle we have a VOH layer, which is the polymer which is giving the barrier property. These kinds of labels can have a barrier of up to 0.8 cubic centimeters per square meter per day. This is the way we use the OTR, which stands for oxygen transmission rate. The labels can be white and clear also. And there are also other labels which are based on an aluminum film layer in between instead of the VOH, with which we can offer a label which has really a total barrier. So the OTR is really down to 0.0. This is a label which is still tolerated today It will not be anymore in future because of the fact that you cannot separate the aluminum film layer from the polypropylene layer. And there might be also other barriers, like, for example, barrier to light for some fatty products, which are sensitive to UV radiation, barrier to water vapor, and so on. Another special product we print labels for is drinking cups. Also here, like with the pasteurization, we need to produce a label which is able to stand very high very high moisture, so water contact at quite high temperatures. These are labels which generally go on drinking cups sold at events or concerts. You just have to imagine you drink a beer at a concert of, I don't know, Måneskin, and you drink this beer in a cup where you have a very nice IML labels with a Måneskin design on it. You can bring the drinking cup home as a souvenir. You can put it on the shelf. Every now you can use it to drink something from it, and you can rewash it in the dishwasher without problems. This is something we have been testing up to 30 dishwasher cycles in a home dishwasher. This means with quite aggressive powder, and we went through these 30 cycles without damage, so without bleeding of the ink of the printing. The IML labels might be printed also recto verso. This means front and back. These labels are typically used on lids for food. Here we see some cheese packaging lids, where we have the design, the normal design of the product on the outside, and on the back side of the label we print, for example, some recipes or whatever it is. The lid is injected with a clear injection material, which allows us to open the package, turn the lid upside down, and read the recipes really through the injection material itself, so through the lid itself. This way we have doubled the surface for marketing or for communication on the whole label. So the IML label is normally not separable from the injection material. This is one of the basic principles of IML, also one of the advantages of IML. But we have some exceptions. We can, with the special treatment, avoid on a part of the label the adhesion of the plastic label to the plastic material, to the injection material. In this case, we see some lids where we have a coupon which is removed. It was removed and flipped back. This is something you can use, for example, for prize winnings or some other marketing initiatives. Yeah, this is an over-injection detector. We had quite a lot of years ago the need to create labels which would allow for detection of an over-injection. And we have been printing this, it's basically a UV reacting ink on the back of the label, which is normally injected, but if we are causing an over-injection on a container, we will have that part of the label which is on the inside of the container. And on the injection molding machine, on the automation, and specifically on the conveyor belt, there is a quite simple camera with UV light, which is able to detect the presence of UV reaction to the UV light. This means that if a part of the label is over-injected, this part will light up, the camera will see it, and a simple kick-out system will put the defective part out of the conveyor. This is something which is, let's say, a cheap alternative to a real vision control system. But nevertheless, there are some cases where this is really effective, like, for example, if we want to detect white on white, we still might have some issues with a modern and full inspection control system. This is a so-called IML over the frame. This is a lid of an ice cream packaging, where the central part, which you see here being transparent and printed, is only the label. There is no injected material in that oval shape in the middle. What is injected is only the frame around. In this case, the label is a very thick label. It is 500 microns thick, and it is very rigid. So the label becomes a structural part of the lid itself. And this way we are able to inject actually a two-color lid, like clear and black, with just a normal machine, because we do not need to inject also clear material. We are using the clear and transparency of the label itself. Peelable labels are used to produce these lids, which are carrying a spoon on the lid structure itself. Typical products are monoportion cheese packaging and monoportion ice cream packaging. What I need to do here is I need to cover and seal the whole upper part of the lid with an IML label. But when I turn the lid upside down and I take the spoon, I need to lift it up, break the two small retention points, and I need to be able to fully remove it. This means that the spoon needs to be fully removed from the label surface, which is covering it. Other peelable labels are the ones we developed for this packaging. Here we had a quite old concept of quite old mold, which was quite old and quite rigid and sturdy, this packaging. But the brand owner wanted to find anyhow a new meaning for such a product. So we've been sitting around a table and we've been thinking about producing IML labels which could be totally removed in order for the end user to buy the ice cream, go home, eat up the ice cream, and once he has eaten it up, he could peel off the labels with the design of the ice cream brand and obtain just flat and not covered with graphics fridge containers, a sort of Tupperware, which he could use and reuse in his refrigerator. This way we have been giving normally a mono-use packaging, we have been giving it a second life and a second multi-use life, which is actually much more than recycling, because we went to a second life without going through a process like recycling, which is anyhow an energy consuming process. So IML labels are generally polypropylene, but if we are talking about some other materials, we might have some other needs. This is a coffee capsule. It's a Keurig size, an American Keurig size coffee capsule, which is injected with PLA material, and it is labeled with a PLA IML label. So we generate a capsule which is monocomponent. PLA is polylactic acid. It's a compostable bioplastic. It is industrially compostable and allows us to take the used coffee capsule together with the used coffee which is inside, and to be thrown in the humid waste in order to be recycled. The problem with a coffee capsule made with a polypropylene material is the fact that you cannot compost everything together. You don't have a common end of life, but you need somehow to open and separate the coffee from the plastic material in order to recycle it. That's basically what Nespresso, for example, is doing with the aluminum capsules. They collect it, and they have built really plants ad hoc in order to be able to separate them. The same goes for a special label that we have developed for home compostable bioplastic. In this case, we have not been able to print a label on home compostable bioplastic because these materials are by far too soft in order to be printed through an offset machine. The material was distorting in an uncontrolled way. So we went a step aside, and we developed a label on cellulose, on a home compostable certified cellulose, where we do not produce a monocomponent container in this case, but here it is not important because we have the common end of life, so we are composting everything together. In this case, the capsule is home compostable, which means I am able to throw it in my garden composter, okay, and make humus on my own. So that was it. Thank you for your kind attention, and we'll be in touch.
Stefano, same presentation. Cool. So next up we have our roundtable discussion on technological advancements in IML. So Stefano will stay here and be part of the panel, and we'll bring Andre back as well. We're just a tad behind schedule, so I'm not going to ask you to introduce yourselves again, just in case anyone just joined. but maybe we'll just go straight into it right away. Let me just pull up the questions. Great. Simi, just to start us off, I'd want to ask you, what recent technological advancements have significantly improved in-mold labeling, whether it be the process, the materials, or equipment? Maybe, Andre, you can go first.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I personally see a lot of new developments going on in the market. If you see in the last 2-3 years, there are a lot of new films, some ideas to reduce waste, going thinner and thinner films, some new qualities as well, and on the equipment as well, a lot of new ideas on the digital printing, and as well the molding technology. So see a lot of faster applications, very thin walls. So it's quite exciting to see how much advancements we are seeing in the last years. I think before Corona, everybody was a little bit during Corona, everybody was just trying to keep the supply chain going on.
Yeah.
But now a lot of these new technologies are coming to the market. Finally, people have more time to trials. So it's quite exciting to see what's going on in the market now.
Great. Stefano, would you have anything to add?
Yes, as far as our business is concerned, of course, electronics and mechatronics, like everywhere, have been changing quite a lot of things. For us, this was meaning, in first instance, the ability to do much faster setups of the printing machine, for the preparation of the whole machine, finding the ink balance, and so on. There are a lot of controls which are nowadays made by electronics, by artificial intelligence, although we still have some key points which are given by the sensitivity of the printing press operator. The setup is, I'm referring to setup time because it's quite important. We need to understand that there are really a lot of print jobs where the setup time of the machine is more than the production time itself. So we have been dramatically changing the whole cost structure and so on through these things. Mechanics also changed quite a lot of things. I remember times where we have been printing something like 5,000 sheets per hour. We print now really easily 12,000 sheets per hour. So this is given just by mechanics. And yeah, regarding other branches like on automation, I see materials also changing. I have recently, oh yes, maybe not so recently, but quite a bit of change in using a lot of carbon fiber on automation systems, vision systems for quality control as far as electronics is concerned. Also changed quite a lot of things. We have some customers where on the night shift there is nobody in the plant, in the production plant. If something goes an alarm, the line is simply stopped. But generally everything is controlled by cameras. Or in some cases, there are some companies having in the night shift, I call him a screwdriver man, was a guy doing some other stuff, sitting in a corner, having a screwdriver in the hand and standing up only if an alarm is triggered.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Great. I'd also just like to say if the audience has any questions, please feel free to use the function, the chat function, if you have any questions for the panelists. And let's say we've talked about what's now, coming up and looking forward. What are some advancements you think will have an impact on the IML market?
You're talking to me? Sorry.
You can go first,
Okay.
Stefano, yeah.
Yes, technological advancements changing the IML industry. As far as the print side is concerned, for sure it will be digital printing. I'm not talking about today's current rotary digital machine, but what I see in future is a printing machine like an offset printing machine with digital printing heads. So this means a 70 by 100 centimeter sheet size structure with digital printing heads. This way, we would be able to speed up even more. So bring really to the limit what I told you before about setup times. I've seen some machines of this kind printing other stuff, not IML labels. They are not ready for IML today, but printing 3 sheets in order to get to the first OK sheet. This was hundreds and hundreds, and still is hundreds and hundreds. Okay, so this is a dramatic impact, and I see, let's say, companies providing digital printing technology merging together with traditional printing presses manufacturers in order to develop such a new generation of machine.
Right. Andre, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I see the same as Stefano did. I think if we see, look forward, I think we want to reduce more and more the waste and have to reduce as much as we can the start setup of the machine. I was visiting some months ago. I was visiting China, where most of the labels, IML labels, are still producing gravure printing. So a huge waste, a huge startup, and they were saying that they can make with a very low price and so on. And I was really astonished to see how much is wasted just to get the first labels. But of course,
right,
the runs there are much higher, much bigger ones, much bigger volumes, and they can afford this waste on the total run. But I agree with Stefano. The idea will be to reduce as much as possible the waste. I've seen already some offset machines is starting with a reduced a lot compared to the past, but still there is a very big waste since the beginning. And I think that we will see more and more, or maybe even these hybrid machines that we see now on self-adhesive labels or pressure-sensitive labels, where I have some flexo units, digital, and then a coding unit or something like that. But I think that will be maybe the future that we'll see on that.
right. We do have a question for the audience, and it does tie in a bit with a question I had about smart labels, so it's perfect. The question is, are there any thoughts, innovations on the visibility, recyclability of RFID inlays in in-mold labels? So the use of RFIDs?
So RFIDs in in-mold labels is something that we have looked into in the past. But there is a problem. The RFID label has, at least today, a certain thickness. It is quite small, but it has a certain thickness. This means that if I'm going to put an RFID chip on an in-mold label, which is typically cut and stack, I will have the label magazine, which will be uneven. Okay. In theory, what I could do in order to compensate this is to change on every label the position of the RFID chip. But this is not possible in offset. We were looking into something like this for a project where, in the end, the injection molder made a very simple in-mold insert of the chip, okay, into the plastic part, which was added to the insertion of the in-mold label itself. So these two were treated as separate things. Of course, we're not talking about codes. Codes, you can do everything you want, but this is really given by the thickness, so the fact that you are going to change the morphology of the surface.
Okay. Andre, I don't know if from the coding side, there's anything to add to that discussion.
We have a company in our group called Alantas, who is doing some printed electronics and these things. They try to do that one. They are using right now already some RFID and some special printed electronics for the IMD labels.
Okay.
But as Stefano said, for in-mold labels, it's quite challenging to have that one. It needs a little bit more research and the development on that one. I think still a little bit far away to have some good RFID solutions for in-mold labels at the moment.
Okay. But things like QR codes, for like augmented reality, that's something that that can be done. And is it something that's being implemented?
Yes, it is. QR codes are printed together with data matrix codes. We are printing quite a lot of 2D codes, so-called 2D codes. And these will be more and more. These will be in our daily life in short time, because in 2027, the traditional barcodes that we know of products where the price is read out at the cash of supermarkets or so will be substituted by two-dimensional codes like data matrix or QR codes. So these are codes which will be substituting everything, and we will see every day. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Another thing regarding codes, which is quite important, is the use of digital watermarks. These are these hidden codes. I don't know who of you knows the Holy Grail 2.0 initiative. So we are members of the initiative. With such codes, we are improving the sorting of plastics by reading out these codes and by having the possibility to put quite a lot of information, so virtually all of the information you want inside such a code, because the code reads out itself only the GTIN, but on a cloud database you can have any information read out by the system. There is one retailer in Germany, which is Nettomarken, which is already using these codes also to read out the price at the cash. Okay. With quite a bit of advantages. Yeah.
Andre, would you have anything to add?
I agree with Stefano. We see already some QR codes is already available. The watermark for the Holy Grail is also it's quite known in the market. People heard about that one in the past. There was some promotion at K showing that how the products are doing, how the products are done with special augmented reality. I still think that the IML market for for the regular FCMG applications are quite conservative and really just look for the functionality. So a very big barcode at the back. But as Stefano said, there are some people trying to innovate, and we hope that comes more and more in the market soon.
Okay. We have another question from the audience. So the question is, what are the main market options and printing methods available for applications involving both high and very low temperatures? Is there a material
Sorry,
that
can you repeat it?
Oh, yes. Let me start from the beginning. What are the main market options and printing methods available for applications involving both high and very low temperatures? And then there's a second part. Is there a material that can withstand both extreme high and low temperatures simultaneously?
Yes, from the label printing side, we have the labels that we use for pasteurization processes. There we have varnishes and inks and film structure being okay for both high and low temperatures. As I said before during my presentation regarding pasteurization process, you cannot state limits actually, because the limits are quite variable. There is quite a lot of interaction between temperature, time, humidity, and so on. So every project needs its own testing, but we produce without problems labels which go up to more than 100 degrees for an hour and more. Okay.
I agree with Stefano. It depends actually how high, what's considered a high, very high and very low. But I agree on that one with what Stefano said. Depend on that one. You have some pasteurization products that withstand high temperature during the cleaning or or really hot filling applications, and then it go on the refrigerator or so. And there are solutions in inks and coatings, and even on the films itself that's definitely can be used.
Okay. We have a couple more questions from the audience, but before we go to those, I did want to ask you about, of course, in Europe, we now have the PPWR coming in. So what the impact on technological developments will be with these new set of regulations and rules?
The impact is quite important, I think. Simply because the PPWR is setting goals, and for some of them, we don't know exactly today how they can be achieved in practice. Okay, this was for us the reason for developing, for example, compostable labels for coffee capsules.
Right.
At a certain point in time, the PPWR, so the draft, was saying that single-serve coffee units would be required to be compostable. And so we were looking into something which could solve this. One other is the barrier solution. So the fact of finding substitution for aluminum barrier is something which is now burning more or less. Okay. We also went into a development with important technology institute, an international technology institute. This went unfortunately into a success in the goal for the performance, but not on the cost side, because in the end, on this case study, a container made of tin plate was cheaper than an IML labeled container, so the barrier functionality was too expensive. But we are trying. We know that the industry is more than 30 years now looking for such a solution, but we try.
Okay. Andre?
Yeah, we also um, agree with Stefano as well. So it's PPWR is going to have a huge impact. Nobody knows in which direction it's going. We see a lot of different work streams. So and it will be difficult to decide. We see as well, as we supply as well inks and coatings for the self-adhesive label market.
Yeah.
Those that are already some usage there, we can see on the PET bottles. It's almost it's really a fully recyclable product today. But I think in IML we are just giving the first steps now, and it's going to be difficult to know in which direction. And it's again what we discussed, what I said before. That's going to be also very big involvement between printers, the film manufacturers, the recyclers as well at the end of the stream, and also to see how it's going to be. I think a solution that's going to be done in Germany, it's not going to be the same one in the United States. So it's going to be, we need to find solutions to adapt to each area or to each region. And that's going to be the challenge, as Stefano said, and that's going to be really interesting to see in which direction the market goes.
Right. Yeah. No, interesting. I think we are actually out of time. There are just 2 questions left in the chat. Maybe both Stefano and Andre, you can just answer it during the break or when you have a chance in the chat. You can get back to the audience. I want to thank you both very much for your participation in this panel, as well as your presentations. Just to let everyone know, the presentations and the video recordings will be available on the platform. So you can continue to access those. And yes, now we will have a 10-minute break. And then we will be back with one more presentation from Tagleaf and then our final panel discussion. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a chance to grab a coffee or something. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who will be Alice Pinozo, who is Product Manager Specialist Labels at Tagleaf. Alice has a keen interest in sustainability, and we'll be hearing from her at our panel as well following this. Her expertise includes sustainability evaluation, LCA, LCC, RBI, innovative material development, surface treatments, and polymeric and ceramic materials. Thank you, Alice. Good luck.
Thanks to you. Let me share my screen. Here we go. You should be seeing it. So yeah, my name is Alice Panozzo, and today I will be presenting from the point of view of a film producer how the film choice can shape the future of IML. So a bit about me. I'm product manager for European region, part of the label business unit, and specialized in IML and wraparound labels. And I have a technical background with a master's degree in materials engineering. And just a couple of words on who is Tagleaf. So it's one of the largest world manufacturers of bio-oriented polypropylene, bio-oriented PLA, and cast polypropylene films for a wide array of application, which go from packaging to labels, going even to industrial applications and graphic arts. This group is a globally present group with a headquarters in Dubai, and it is part of the Al Ghurair group. So moving to today's topic, we're talking about labels and of IML labels, but Tagleaf is also active in several other segments, such as pressure-sensitive, wraparound, and shrink films. On today's topic, IML, Tagleaf has a long experience and a wide diversified portfolio. But let's tackle the elephant in the room now. We produce plastics. As we all know, plastics is quite demonized in today's world, where sustainability is becoming more and more the main driver towards the future. And so what I want to put into question right now is, how do we follow this drive? How do we remain sustainable and become more and more sustainable? And what is the impact of plastic on this, and how can we stay relevant? So first of all, I would like to raise a question. What is packaging, and what would happen without it? So packaging is a fundamental part of every food product. In fact, the appropriate choice of packaging contributes to preserving the product and reducing the waste. So when you look at the total carbon footprint of a product, it is the most of it is given by the production and the consumption of the product. This means that this is also the most valuable part, and it needs to be preserved and not to be wasted. Here comes into play the role of packaging, which represents 10% of the total carbon footprint in average, which is not most of it, but it's still something relevant to consider. So it is important to make the best choice for packaging, both to preserve at best the content and also to make sure that the packaging choice is the most sustainable possible. Plastics is still today one of the most efficient packaging choices in many applications because of its lightweight and its resistance. However, we must be aware of what represents a problem, which is the packaging waste, the plastic waste. So we still have a high percentage of uncollected plastics or plastics that finish in landfill, which is different from region to region. For example, the recycled portion is much higher in Europe compared to other regions, but still is something that must be tackled and improved. This is a complex challenge, and it represents a problem, but also a potentiality for the industry, which must take responsibility and embrace this challenge. So to present complex for this complex problem, tailor solutions for each application and for each geographical region. So what can be done to drive this progress? In Tagleaf, we believe that sustainability is something that must be tackled as a global problem, and not only supplying products, but also supplying a comprehensive array of solutions. For this reason, we developed Dynamic Cycle, which is a set of initiatives aimed to address sustainability within mainly four ways. On one side, solutions, so actual products and what we can offer. Services, so how we can help and support the market, the stakeholders to go more sustainable, but also commitments, which are played by being active in associations and with regulatory bodies, and have an impact on the decisions which are made, and corporate goals, because this approach must not only take into consideration the production, but all of the corporate mindset. As per the services, here we can offer tools that are fundamental to make conscious choices. So when we choose one packaging over another one, it is important that we take into consideration quantitative data. We analyze correctly what we are presented with, and that when we make an environmental claim, we can back it up with concrete certifications, assessment, and analysis. So in this, it is important to consider LCA analysis, which is a quantitative cradle-to-gate study of the environmental impact of a product through a series of impact factors, which are environmental categories, but also assessments and certification, which permit to have traceability and reliability of the claims that are made. Another service we offer that is very important for us is redesign, which guide the stakeholders through cooperation to switch from traditional to innovative and sustainable packagings. For the IML, which is the topic of today in particular, we do it in three main ways, which are decreasing the amount of plastic, rethinking the material source, and replacing existing structures. So let's see these more in details with some examples that I brought to have an idea of what this means. For example, when we think of decreasing the amount of plastic, this can be done in several ways. It can be done by downgauging, so decreasing the thickness, but it can be done also by decreasing the density of the film. In this case, what I'm presenting here is LING, which is the next generation, the first of the next generation IML films, which has a paper-like post-molding appearance, and it has two benefits which help to decrease plastics. On one side, a very low density, which permits for a lower plastic consumption, and on the other side, an increased efficiency, which allows to reduce the waste of labels during the phases which come after the film production. This while reminding that the IML label is an integral part of the container. It supports the container and allow it to be structurally stable, and hence allows to reduce the container thickness, because the label is itself part of the container. Another way to redesign is rethinking the material source. And in this case, there are several options that we offer, which are, in this case, both based on an ISCC Plus certification and a mass balance approach. On one side, I present BOPP, which is our brand of bio-based polypropylene, so where the polypropylene is produced from a bio-based alternative to conventional fossil-based feedstocks. And on the other side, instead, Relife, which is our brand of recycled feedstock, and in this case, chemically recycled polypropylene, which in both of these cases, the material is still food compliant, as all of our films, so direct food contact, and it allows to decrease the quantity of plastics which goes unrecycled, and on the other side, it also allows to close the loop. When we think of instead replacing existing structures, one example that could not go unsaid is replacing existing polypropylene structures with PLA-based products, which are industrially compostable structures which are derived from renewable sources and can be used for appropriate applications. In fact, it is always important, I will never stress it enough, to choose the correct packaging for the correct application. An example for an industrially compostable structure could be a coffee capsule, where the capsule is thrown directly in the organic waste together with the coffee contained, or, for example, a flower pot, as is depicted in the other picture. Another way to replace existing structures, and in this case, we also have down gauging, is, for example, when we consider yogurt cups or other applications where today we have polystyrene thermoformed containers with decorated with direct printed, or even more often with paper labels, which could be replaced by polypropylene containers, also thermoformed, with polypropylene thermoformed labels. Which advantages does this give to us? On one side, it permits to go from a multi-material structure to a monomaterial structure. It allows to have very low wall thicknesses, thanks to the thermoforming technology, and the switch from polystyrene to polypropylene allows to lower the processing temperatures of the thermoforming. In fact, the melting temperature of the polypropylene is much lower than the melting temperature of the polystyrene. On the downsides of this technology, this is quite a small and niche technology. As was shown in the first presentation, the thermoforming represents a small part of the whole IML market. So only white voided labels options are available. And on the other side, a study and a cooperation work must be done, because the barrier properties of polystyrene and polypropylene are different, and so this must be studied and worked on case by case. So what is next? What can we expect for the future? The packaging waste regulation was mentioned before. Some key aspects that will impact the IML segment are for sure that for sensitive applications where the direct food contact is required, it will be mandatory by 2030 to have a minimum of a 10% of recycled content in the container, while by 2030 this will be up to 25%. For the non-sensitive applications, so where food contact is not required, the percentage will be 35% in 2030 and 65% in 2040. The Recyclers guidelines in Europe have already, let's say, are already up to speed to try and meet the requirements from the packaging waste regulation. In fact, when you look at the guidelines for natural and white polypropylene containers, full compatibility is obtained when the labels are defined as follows. The label material the labels need to be removable labels in polypropylene. So how can we be relevant as IML producers and fulfilling this rule? So what expects us from the future is to develop labels that can detach from the container during the recycling phase, so to allow to obtain a clean and uncontaminated polypropylene stream separated by the printed portion. This can contribute to truly closing the loop, and the next step after this is to have a food-grade polypropylene recyclate, which will then feed into this requirement of 10% of recycled content, and this will be fully food grade, mechanically recycled polypropylene, so also to lower the environmental impact from the energy consumption point of view that is a downside of the chemical recycling. So this was all for me for now, because the future is always changing and it's ours to imagine, and whatever comes next, we will work together and we'll be ready for it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a very interesting presentation. I think we will be staying on. We'll be having now a panel discussion on the future of sustainable in-mold labeling. And joining us as well here will be Regina Guslitzer. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The Global Sustainability Application Product Manager at HP Indigo. Regina, I'll let you say a few words about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes.
Yes.
Hello, and nice to meet you all. and the very nice webinar. So my name is Regina, and I'm representing here HP Indigo, which is a digital industrial printing division, a part of the HP Global. And our products are targeting all the printing segment markets, from general commercial printing to all the packaging segments. We are digital printing using the liquid electrophotography technology, which is basically working as the digital offset technology, using the intermediate blanket. So this is the most regular comparison that we are using, and it of course reflects in the quality. But here I'm glad that I was invited to talk about sustainability in mold, and the role of all the value chain stakeholders, how it's important to work together. So
Great, thank you. Thank you both for being here, and for Alice for your presentation. I'm sorry for pronouncing both of your names the English way. I know. So
Alice
it's
will be
Regina.
fine.
Okay. Great. Since we have 20 minutes, I'm just going to jump in. Maybe just to start us off, I'd like to ask both of you, what does sustainability is a very broad term, which I think is an issue, but can also be an opportunity in some cases. So just to ask both of you, what does sustainability for IML mean to you? And maybe Regina, you can start.
Okay, so after Ali's great presentation about what is sustainability for the material itself, of course, since in a label area, material is the main contributor, okay, to the functionality and also to the environmental impact. I think it's really important to source the materials from the most sustainable way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a recycled content or by source or any other. I think in perspective of the processing, how you produce the labels, and then how you print on the label, which is really our responsibility to see that the most efficient way of producing were chosen, and by producing the in mold for the labeling, I think that it's really described by the application itself. You print on the material, you're not using any adhesive, any liner. You just print on the label and the code, and then it's a part of the container. It goes really good along with the recycling guidelines. The same material, easy to recycle. And even if the inking guidelines are applied, most of the in-mold are printed surface, so it's also easy to recycle. So yeah, this is for me the easiest way to apply the label, reduce processes, no labeling, no liner waste.
Great. Alice?
Well, I agree for sure with what Regina was saying. The only thing I feel like adding is that the sustainability approach for IML, for me, a fundamental part of it is to be integrated, because the EML being the label being an integral part of the container itself, it is fundamental when working on sustainability and challenging the current concepts and looking for ways to be more sustainable, to work in an integrated way over the whole value chain, to be sure that all of the players are taken into consideration, from the production of the films, of the inks, of the machine, down to the recycling.
Okay, cool. I think that's a good segue as well for maybe the next question. And again, if the audience has any questions, please drop them in the chat, and we'll try to get around to as many as we can. And then maybe just to continue the direction of the discussion, if we look at, I mean, we mentioned PBWR and such, how would these regulations or new regulations in place impact IML compared to other labeling technologies? And in general, sustainability as well. Like how would you compare it? Whoever wants to go first.
Well, as I was saying, when label and container are all in one, the developments towards sustainability will necessarily be more integrated in the value chain. So, the main stakeholder, from film producer to brand owner over to recycler, needs to be involved in this, and this represents both a challenge on one side but also an opportunity to be more connected. Anyway, sorting in the correct stream, as Regina was saying, is made easier from the fact that polymer, that container and label, are made of the same material compared to what is multi-material solution, but on the other side, what is to be looked at in the future is how to generate a clean stream of polypropylene, and for that it is important to find solutions which are common to the whole industry and having a common design approach, because when going towards the recycling, common design approach among the whole market makes it much easier and handleable by recyclers to align and to sort and recycle in the best and most efficient way.
Regina, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so we as a printer provider, we are also responsible for the end product, that our process of the printing is not interfere with the recycling of the material. And I think that it's very important that at the end, or with the involvement of the regulation, it will take into account really the all available options of the producing in mold, will create the guidelines and also the processes that will be right for most of the products, and it will really remove the burden from the producer, from those who are really producing the in mold at the end, and how they'll deal with the waste, and not create the roadblocks, with the very complex processes. I think this is very important, and it will be really pushing forward the recyclability processes by themselves if it will be clear and easy. So the alignment between different regulation and clarity is the main feature for me.
Right. Okay. And maybe that leads to the next question as well, of how do companies navigate international regulatory differences when operating in global markets? I mean, Tagleaf, HP, both very global companies, and the brand owners as well are usually large FMCG companies operating across the globe. So how does that have an impact on how companies operate?
Okay. So I can continue with this clarity. So it's really complicated topic, the regulation, and sustainability now is becoming a part of the regulation. Not everybody understand that yet. Okay, so it's really important to create, and it, of course, it depends on the size of the company, but at least assign a person which really deep dive into it and learn, and they will be able to communicate the importance to the company employees, because this is the very important part, and not only convince the management but also the people are working, so everyone will be aligned. I think to create a dedicated team or person to oversee sustainability that he or the team will create the connection in a different geographic areas, okay, to align on the regulation and see what are the adjustment need to be done locally to create the regular updates and be a part of the development team, right? The regulatory portal is now a must to be a part of the development team and create the requirements for the design.
Right. Okay. Alice, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to add, making a step back and going to a more, let's say, to a more faraway picture from the single company, how it is important also because this is a very complex challenge, and yeah, each company needs to do their best. And for sure, a company with a global reach, will have a wider view and probably more, let's say, power to let's say more less energies and people to dedicate to check the local differences and to support each customer's need in their own ways. But at the same time, it is fundamental that the cooperation among regional associations and regulatory bodies keeps on increasing, so that there can be we can go towards an harmonization of regulations and of how we work towards sustainability, because the more we are harmonized in this globalized world, the more it will be easy to develop large-scale systems which actually work and bring forward the sustainability. For example, cooperation between Recyclas and APR at the moment works well to go in the direction of making what is happening in Europe, spreading what is happening in Europe and make it more and more global, and taking also from the other regions to choose which are the best practices in each region and build a global consensus on what needs to be done.
Yeah. Cannot agree more. This is really important. And I think that the main suppliers and producers need to be a part of those associations, and I'm sure that Taglif is really integrated very good. Yeah, for the material supply area, it's critical.
Great. We have a question from the audience for Regina. The question is, HP works with liquid toner technology. How do you compare your toner with offset inks and flexo inks regarding sustainability?
Yes, so we are working with the liquid toner, and our liquid carrier of our ink is recycled inside the press. So we reuse the same liquid, and we add only very small amount that comes with the ink cartridges, but the main amount of the liquid, it's recycled within the press. The customer can extract the recycled and clean liquid and reuse it for the purposes of washing and such. So we are reducing drastically the need to ship and to use the virgin liquid. This is one. What is related to the ink itself, our ink is safe. It compliant with the non-direct food contact, and we constantly following all the regulation, which is evolving all the time, and making the needed changes. But it's food safe, and it's also comply with all the regulation.
Okay, thank you. Hope that answers the question for the audience. If there's anything else, again, just drop it in the chat. Then maybe moving on to our next question, and you kind of touch base on it, on just the industry working more together, but how important is collaboration between stakeholders, so the brand owners, material suppliers, equipment manufacturers, converters, in driving sustainability? And is that collaboration currently there, or is there like more room for improvement still?
Well, what I can say is that it is fundamental. I have mentioned it more than once. It's a concept that I really believe into, and there is a certain amount of cooperation. So there is a lot which is done to work together, but for sure it can always be done better and more. So there's always room for improvement there.
Yeah, I can add. Then we are looking on the collaboration, and by the way, Taglif is our partner for many years in the media supplier. I think that the constant collaboration and the requirements for changes. First of all, it's coming from the brand. The brand it creates the requirements for the packaging, and then it goes down to the value chain. I think the brand development for sustainability, it goes beyond the only sustainable sourcing material. It goes to the multiple images, multiple SKU. So they want the product to be different, more appealing on the shelf, and at the same time sustainable. So the agility through the value chain is very critical. So to be able to create a product line with the different flavors, for example, for yogurt or for the and not to create a lot of waste because someone is limited by the minimal order. This is one. Second, brands also want the flexibility in the container structure, right? So it drives the molders to implement digital solutions also, like a 3D or something else. So all these changes, they should be integrated into the industry of the in-mold, and it goes and cascades down. And efficiency, the efficiency is equals sustainability. The more efficient you are, the less waste you produce, less energy you use. It all goes directly. So it also drives the changes into the tooling, as same as we do, making our process faster, more efficient. So I think it happens within all the industry.
Okay. Cool. Not to jump a question on you, it wasn't one we discussed beforehand, but I just kind of wanted to follow up on this. What does it say then? I was just reading a couple articles that some major brand owners, one of them Unilever, for example, are postponing some of their sustainability goals because they don't believe they will be reaching their, I think it's current 2025 or 2030 goals. What does that say about how sustainability is playing a role in the industry? Sorry.
I think that it's very challenging, sustainability. I think for a long time, the sustainability was more a marketing tool to make a differentiation. And that's why a lot of greenwashing were, we are fighting a lot of greenwash recently. So only now it starts to create, and I think Alice and other participants in this webinar were mentioning data. Okay, so now everybody started to creating the KPIs, measurement tools. And okay, before we want to reduce, before we want to change, let's first measure where we are. And let's create the processes and strategy how we would like to create, and by doing all that, company realizing that it's very difficult and it will take time, especially because it's not only in their responsibility, in their influence, it's also the value chain. That's why it's so hard. And I think the companies that are postponing their sustainability goals, they're really coming bold and say, right, we don't want to, to create the green picture, but let's see that it's challenging and engage more companies and more participants to help each other to make it faster and the most important, the real.
Right. Yeah. If you're gonna do it, then do it well, I would say. Right.
Yeah. I agree very much. If I can add, true sustainability requires a lot of investment, a lot of commitment, and it requires a lot of agreement among the stakeholders. Because when you need to develop a new technology, a new method, a new thing, you can do the most sustainable thing in the world, but if you produce 4 of them because nobody is following you, then it is sustainable, but it is not sustainable in the today's world. So finding the key and the right solutions that do have an impact on the world, but at the same time they also actually are easy to implement in the current system is very important. So to make sure, and it's very important, but it's also very complex as a goal to achieve.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. There's another question from the audience. Just having a little trouble reading it. Any AI-driven innovations that are helping to develop more sustainable in-mold labeling solutions?
I can say for the machinery developments, the automation is the key word here. Automation, it can be implemented in different processes. And the first topic which everybody, focusing on the automation is reduce waste by removing manual mistakes, but to do more automated processes. Also to reduce time and energy by setups, by calibration, by all the preparation, setup time. I think the automated processes that are, based on machine learning and something that, creating the database of the processes that were already done and just, withdraw the data. I think all that contributes not only to make, to save time and make more efficient, but also to sustainability. As I mentioned previously, efficiency equals sustainability. So all these things, it comes together by the automation and the automated processes.
Right.
On the other side of the chain, there is what I can think of as AI-driven innovation is on the sorting side, how the AI can change, could change and could have an impact on what the sorting will look like.
Right.
We already see it used in some cases. If this becomes more and more used, it will make it much easier to sort correctly and give more freedom with the designs and with all of the IML developments that can happen.
Right. Okay, thank you. Maybe just to continue, I'd like to ask you both, how do you see the future of IML and sustainability and how it's evolving in response to changing market dynamics and consumer preferences, which obviously have a big impact. Of course, there's regulations taking place. So, what does the future look like to you?
Well, here, if I may, I'd like to propose kind of a concept that is quite quite close to me, which is I think that we should we should do a switch here in the perspective. We should not ask ourselves how to respond to the consumer preferences which are driving us, but we should ask ourselves, what do the consumer wants? The consumer want a more sustainable world, and what they perceive as more sustainable is not always what is actually more sustainable. So I think what we should be asking ourselves is how can we transfer the knowledge that we have of what is truly more sustainable to the consumers, so to drive them to what they want, but in the right way, and not going to options and possibilities that maybe look more sustainable, are marketed as more sustainable, but then they actually have, when applied to a large scale, a negative impact on the world. So I would like for the industry to take on this challenge to pass the information down the chain, so to have more informed and more conscious consumers that have preferences that are in line with what is truly beneficial for the world.
Right.
Yeah, I like it very much. Then I was thinking about the future on in-mold. I think that in-mold labeling itself, as we already discussed, has a really good basis to be sustainable. Like, where is the challenge? It's in the production flow. It's very heavy. It's very complex. The molders itself, the cutting machines, and all these things are holding the in-mold, from be more accessible, more used. So I think that the future for in-mold will be a lot of innovation in those areas which are not agile enough, not digital enough. And once it will happen, it will push forward the in-mold application, I think, because of the original is really there.
Right.
One small thing, if I can add, about the future is that the future of IML needs to go towards cleaning the polypropylene recycling stream. So IML, to stay relevant, needs to find ways to allow to have a clean polypropylene that can go back into IML containers. So go back, closing the loop, and closing and reusing the material in food grade applications.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me just check the time. I think we'll do one final question and then wrap it up. So maybe just to end our discussion, like to ask both of you, can you think of any emerging technologies in the IML sector that are expected to disrupt the market, whether it be on the sustainability front or something else?
Oh no, I just replied this. Yeah, well, I don't have much to add from what I just said, which is whatever will be the technology which truly allows to clean the loop and truly is adaptable and usable by the whole market. So something that can be generalized and used by most of the market, then this will be the winner that will take over.
Yeah, exactly.
IML.
Yeah, it will definitely push more material to recycle and to be back. If I look on the technology innovation, I think more streamline molding processes. I think this is the really the main point where it makes all the complexity, because this is the most critical part. of creating the package itself, because here within In-Mold, it's not coming into the stages. It's just one. Everything creates at once. I think this is the main aspect, and I think that the more automation here, more flexibility will really drive forward the industry.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I think that's a good ending note. So I'd like to thank you both very much for your participation. Alice, for your presentation as well. It was a very interesting discussion. I think we'll be closing off now. We've reached the end of our program. So again, I just want to thank our panelists, our speakers today, of course, our sponsors, Actica, Viapiani, and Tagleaf. Thank you very much for your support, our audience for being here, and our AWA conference team who is behind the scenes setting all this up. So thank you as well. Just want to again remind everyone that we do have this 30% discount on our IML study for participants of the seminar. So if you're interested in that, there will again be the discount code on the display, or you can just reach out to anyone on the AWA team and we will help you sort that out. So again, thank you very much. I hope this was an educational and useful session for you, and I hope to not see you, but have you at our following up sessions in In-Mold Technologies. Thank you.